The galaxy once laughed at the grizzled derelict ships that hovered deathly still for eons in the bleak void. Now, those ships represent mankind's last chance for survival. "We're approaching the coordinates of the ancient fleet, Novak," Zor-El said, nervously tapping the control panel of the Mazarian Historical Archives space station. Novak, the senior historian, nodded solemnly, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen. The screen displayed thousands of ships, silently drifting in the remote sector of the galaxy. The mysterious fleet had been discovered decades ago, sending shockwaves through the galactic community. "Imagine the awe and terror our ancestors felt when they first stumbled upon this site," Novak mused. "These ships, constructed with materials and techniques far beyond our capabilities, hinted at a long-extinct civilization, or perhaps something far more sinister." Zor-El shuddered. "And now, with the Varnok invasion threatening our very existence, we turn to these ancient vessels as our last hope." Novak's gaze hardened. "The Mazarian government has assembled a team of our best scientists, engineers, and military personnel. They will unravel the secrets of these ships, and, if the legends are true, unlock the power to save our species." "But what if the legends are wrong?" Zor-El asked, his voice trembling. "What if we can't unlock the ship's secrets in time?" Novak placed a reassuring hand on his young colleague's shoulder. "Then, my friend, we will face extinction, but we must have faith. Faith in our team, faith in the power of knowledge, and faith that whoever built these ships left them here for a reason." As the space station drew closer to the ancient fleet, Novak couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and dread. The fate of the Mazarian people, and perhaps the entire galaxy, rested on the secrets hidden within those silent, ghostly ships. As the investigation team carefully boarded one of the ancient ships, Novak turned to Zor-El, his eyes wide with disbelief. "You should have seen it, Zor-El," Novak said. The interior of the ship was in pristine condition, as if it had been built mere days ago. Every surface gleamed, and the air was fresh and clean. It was astonishing, considering the ship's apparent age. Zor-El leaned forward, his interest piqued. "How is that possible? What kind of technology could preserve a ship for so long?" Novak shook his head. "That's what we're trying to find out. Chief Engineer Kalnak and his team are exploring the vessel as we speak. They've been marveling at the advanced systems and intricate designs. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered. Well, for starters, the ship is powered by a self-sustaining energy source," Novak explained. "Kalnak says it's capable of keeping the vessel operational for millennia. It's a technology that's far beyond our current capabilities." Zor-El's eyes widened. "A self-sustaining energy source? That's incredible. What else have they found?" Novak leaned closer, lowering his voice. As they ventured deeper into the ship, they discovered a central computer core. It appears to contain a vast array of data and information. Kalnak and his team managed to establish a connection and are working on deciphering its contents. "Any idea what kind of information it might hold?" Zor-El asked. "Not yet, but here's the most shocking part," Novak said, his voice trembling with excitement. "The ships weren't built by an unknown alien civilization, as we initially thought. They were constructed by an ancient faction of humans known as the Earth Defense Alliance, or EDA. Zor-El gasped. "Humans, but how? We've always considered them to be a primitive species, technologically inferior to us." Novak nodded. "That's what we thought. But according to the records, the EDA was a military organization formed in the early days of human space exploration. Their purpose was to protect Earth and its colonies from potential threats. The fact that they were capable of building such an advanced fleet is astounding." Zor-El sat back in his chair, his mind reeling from the revelation. "I can't believe it. Humans of all species were behind this incredible technology. It's going to change everything we thought we knew about them." As Novak and Zor-El continued to pore over the data from the ancient human ship, Novak's eyes widened. "Zor-El, come look at this," Novak said, beckoning his colleague over. "I think I've uncovered the true purpose of this fleet." Zor-El hurried to Novak's side, peering at the screen. "What did you find?" "These ships weren't just built as a precautionary measure," Novak explained, his voice filled with awe. They were designed to be humanity's last line of defense against a specific threat, a hostile alien race known as the Zorgath. Zorel furrowed his brow. The Zorgath? I've never heard of them. Novak nodded. According to these files, the Zorgath were a highly aggressive and expansionist species. They had already conquered and enslaved countless civilizations by the time Earth's early warning systems detected their approach. And the humans knew they were coming? Zorel asked, his eyes wide. Yes, Novak confirmed. The EDA determined that engaging the Zorgath directly was humanity's only chance for survival, but they couldn't risk a battle near Earth or its colonies. They needed to intercept the Zorgath in deep space. Zorel leaned closer to the screen, scanning the information. So they built this fleet in secret? Exactly, Novak said. The Aegis project, as it was called, was a massive undertaking. The EDA's top scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to develop cutting-edge technologies for these ships. Like the self-sustaining energy source and advanced shielding systems we discovered, Zorel mused. And powerful energy weapons, and AI-assisted navigation and targeting software, Novak added. The ingenuity and determination of these humans is truly remarkable. They knew the fate of their entire species depended on the success of this fleet. Zorel turned to Novak, his expression one of fascination and anticipation. So what happened? Did the fleet engage the Zorgath? Novak paused for a moment, his eyes scanning the records. The tension in the room was palpable as Zorel waited for his response. Finally, Novak looked up, a smile spreading across his face. They did, he said, his voice filled with pride and admiration. The records show that the EDA fleet intercepted the Zorgath in a series of brutal battles. The humans fought with everything they had, using their advanced technology and tactical prowess to outmaneuver and outgun the enemy. Zorel's eyes widened, and they were successful. Novak nodded, his grin widening. They drove the Zorgath back, preventing them from ever reaching human space. The Aegis project was a resounding success, and it's clear that without the bravery and ingenuity of these ancient humans, their species, and perhaps the entire galaxy would have been lost. Zorel leaned back in his chair, shaking his head in amazement. Incredible! The humans not only built this incredible fleet, but also used it to save their entire species from annihilation. Their bravery and sacrifice are truly commendable. Novak nodded solemnly. Indeed, but their victory came at a great cost. Many ships were destroyed or heavily damaged in the fierce battles, and a significant portion of the human crew members lost their lives defending their homeworld. It must have been a difficult decision to keep the fleet's existence a secret after such a monumental event, Zorel mused. The EDA believed it was necessary, Novak explained. They feared that the advanced technology used in the ship's construction could be misused or fall into the wrong hands, potentially leading to another galactic conflict. They wanted to protect humanity from any further threats. Zorel furrowed his brow. So what happened to the remaining ships and crew? Novak tapped on the screen, pulling up more information. According to Kalnak's findings, the EDA chose to send the surviving ships on a long-term mission to explore the far reaches of the galaxy and gather intelligence on potential future threats. The ships were crewed by a skeleton force, while the majority of the crew was placed in stasis. A skeleton crew in stasis? How did they manage that? Zorel asked. The fleet's AI systems were programmed to keep the ships operational and the crew in stasis until they were needed again, Novak replied. It was a controversial decision, but the EDA believed that the fleet's advanced capabilities could be a valuable asset in the event of another alien invasion. Zorel nodded thoughtfully. So these ships have been drifting through space for centuries, waiting to be called upon once more. Precisely, Novak said. And now with the Vanuk invasion looming, it seems that the time has come for the Aegis fleet to rise again and defend the galaxy. Zorel leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Just imagine the impact this discovery will have on our understanding of human history and their role in shaping the galaxy. It's truly mind-boggling. Novak smiled, sharing his colleagues' enthusiasm. And to think we've only scratched the surface of what these ships contain. There's still so much more to uncover and learn. Zorel leaned forward, his curiosity piqued by Novak's revelation. What about the human crew members? Did Kalnak's team find any survivors aboard the ships? Novak nodded, a glimmer of excitement in his eyes. As a matter of fact, they did. When our investigation team first boarded the ships, they discovered the crew members still in stasis, their life signs stable but dormant. Incredible, Zorel breathed. And you said they managed to revive some of them? Yes, with the help of our medical experts. They carefully revived a small group of the human crew, including their commanding officer, Captain Frank Sullivan. Zorel tried to imagine the scene. It must have been quite a shock for them, waking up after centuries in stasis. Novak agreed. Absolutely. Captain Sullivan and his crew were initially disoriented and confused. They had no memory of the time that had passed since they entered stasis. Kalnak told me they were stunned to learn that centuries had gone by, and that the galaxy had changed so significantly in their absence. I can only imagine, Zorel said softly. How did they react when they learned about Earth's current state and the fact that humanity had largely forgotten about the EDA fleet's existence? Novak's expression turned somber. It was an emotional moment, to say the least. Many of them broke down in tears, overwhelmed by the realization that everything and everyone they had known was gone. But Captain Sullivan, he remained strong. He knew that their mission had been a success and that their sacrifices had ensured humanity's survival. Zorel nodded, feeling a swell of respect for the human captain. What happened next? Our team, recognizing the historical significance of the fleet and its crew, offered to help the humans acclimate to their new reality. We provided them with all the information and resources they needed to understand the current state of the galaxy and their place in it. That was very generous of us, Zorel said, a hint of pride in his voice. Novak smiled. Indeed it was, and Captain Sullivan was incredibly grateful for our assistance. In fact, he agreed to share the fleet's technology and knowledge with us, in the hopes that it could be used to benefit both our species and to promote peace throughout the galaxy. Zorel's eyes widened. That's a monumental decision. The implications of such a collaboration could be far-reaching. Absolutely, Novak agreed, his voice filled with excitement. This marks the beginning of a new era of cooperation and understanding between humans and Mizarians. It's a moment that will be remembered in the annals of galactic history. Zorel listened intently as Novak described the challenges faced by Captain Sullivan and his crew as they worked to integrate the EDA fleet's technology into Mizarian society. It wasn't an easy task, Novak said, shaking his head. The human crew had been in stasis for so long that they found it difficult to adapt to the new galactic order. The technologies they once considered cutting-edge now seemed primitive compared to what we Mizarians had developed. I can only imagine how disorienting that must have been for them, Zorel remarked, his brow furrowed in empathy. To wake up and find that everything they knew had changed so drastically. Novak nodded. They struggled to find their place in this new world, but Captain Sullivan and his crew refused to be discouraged. Instead of giving up, they came up with an ambitious plan to upgrade and modernize the EDA fleet. How did they manage that? Zorel asked, leaning forward in his seat. They combined their own ingenuity with our technological expertise, Novak explained, a hint of pride in his voice. The human crew worked side by side with our engineers and scientists, sharing their knowledge of the fleet's original systems while learning about the advancements we had made over the centuries. Zorel's eyes widened. That must have been an incredible collaboration. It was, Novak agreed, a smile spreading across his face. The synergy that emerged between our two species was remarkable. Each group brought their unique strengths and perspectives to the table, and together they accomplished something truly extraordinary. And the result? Zorel prompted, his curiosity piqued. For the upgraded EDA fleet became a symbol of human Mizarian cooperation, Novak said, his voice filled with admiration. It stood as a testament to the power of unity and the potential for different species to work together towards a common goal. Zor-El sat back in his chair, marveling at the story. It's amazing what can be achieved when we put aside our differences and focus on what unites us. Indeed, Novak agreed, his gaze drifting to the view screen where the ancient fleet still drifted silently. Captain Sullivan and his crew taught us a valuable lesson about the strength of the human spirit and the importance of perseverance in the face of adversity. It's a lesson we would do well to remember as we face the challenges that lie ahead. Zor-El leaned forward, his eyes wide with astonishment. An artificial structure emitting the same energy signature as the one detected in the EDA fleet's logs. That's incredible. What do you think it could be? Novak shook his head, his brow furrowed in thought. It's hard to say, but the implications are staggering. If this structure is somehow connected to the Zorgath conflict, it could hold the key to understanding the true nature of the threat humanity faced all those centuries ago. And the fact that Captain Sullivan himself is leading the expedition. Zor-El trailed off, his voice filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Novak nodded solemnly. It's a bold move, but one that speaks to the captain's dedication and bravery. He knows that this discovery could have far-reaching consequences for both our species and the galaxy as a whole. What do you think they'll find inside the structure? Zor-El asked, his mind racing with possibilities. Your guess is as good as mine, Novak replied, his gaze fixed on the view screen where the expedition ship could be seen approaching the massive space station. But whatever it is, I have a feeling that it will change everything we thought we knew about the Zorgath, the EDA, and the role of humanity in the galaxy. Zor-El nodded, his heart pounding with anticipation. I just hope that Captain Sullivan and his team are prepared for whatever they might encounter. The unknown can be a dangerous place. Novak placed a reassuring hand on his colleague's shoulder. If there's one thing I've learned about humans, it's that they have an uncanny ability to rise to the occasion when the stakes are high. I have no doubt that Captain Sullivan and his crew will face whatever challenges lie ahead with the same courage and determination that drove the EDA to victory all those years ago. As the two Mizarians watched the expedition ship draw closer to the enigmatic structure, they couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. The once-forgotten tale of humanity's bravery and sacrifice had now become a living, breathing reality, and they knew that they were witnessing history in the making. Zor-El listened intently as Novak revealed the latest developments in Captain Sullivan's expedition. They decided to board the mysterious space station? Zor-El asked, his eyes widening. Yes, Novak confirmed. As they explored the station's interior, they discovered an advanced research facility filled with technology that far surpassed even the upgraded EDA fleet. The station's systems appeared to be studying a strange, pulsating energy source that the team had never encountered before. Zor-El leaned forward, captivated by the story. What did they find as they delved deeper into the station? Novak's expression grew serious. They found evidence suggesting that the facility had been constructed by a collaboration between the EDA and an unknown alien race. The team discovered logs and research notes detailing an alliance formed between the two groups in the aftermath of the Zorgath conflict. Their goal was to develop new technologies to protect their respective civilizations from future threats. That's incredible, Zor-El mused. But you mentioned there were concerns about the energy source they were studying. Novak nodded solemnly. Yes, the logs hinted at a growing concern among the researchers about the potential dangers of the energy source, which they dubbed the Omega particle. The team found references to containment breaches and unexplained disappearances of personnel, suggesting that the research had taken a turn for the worse. Zor-El's brow furrowed. That's troubling. What did Captain Sullivan decide to do? Realizing the potential significance of this discovery, Captain Sullivan had the team download as much data as possible from the station's computers. He hoped to unravel the mystery behind the Omega particle and the fate of the researchers. "A wise decision," Zor-El remarked, "but you said something happened as they prepared to leave the station?" Novak's voice grew tense. Just as they were about to depart, the team detected a sudden surge in the energy readings from the Omega particle. It was becoming increasingly unstable. Zor-El's eyes widened. "Unstable, what does that mean for the team?" Novak shook his head. "I don't know, but I fear they may be in grave danger. The logs they discovered painted a grim picture of the Omega particle's potential destructive power. If it becomes fully unstable—" Zor-El swallowed hard, the implication hanging heavy in the air. The two Mizarians sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the situation sinking in. The fate of Captain Sullivan and his team, as well as the secrets they uncovered, now hung in the balance. Novak's voice trembled as he described the chaos that erupted aboard the research station. Captain Sullivan and his team raced through the collapsing corridors, dodging falling debris and exploding consoles. The Omega particle's energy surged through the station's systems, tearing it apart from the inside out. Zor-El leaned forward, his eyes wide with shock. How did they manage to escape? "By the skin of their teeth," Novak replied, shaking his head. "They barely made it back to their ship before the station was consumed by a massive energy burst. The shockwave nearly knocked them off course as they fled the area." "And what did they discover when they analyzed the data they retrieved?" Zor-El asked, his voice filled with apprehension. Novak's expression darkened. Something far more terrifying than they could have ever imagined. The Omega particle wasn't just an energy source, it was a sentient being of immense power. The EDA and their alien allies had unknowingly awakened this ancient entity during their research, and now it threatened to break free and wreak havoc on the galaxy. "He knew they had to act fast," Novak said, his voice filled with admiration for the human captain. "He made the difficult decision to use the upgraded EDA fleet to confront the Omega particle before it could fully manifest." The human and Mizarian crew worked around the clock, modifying their ship's weapons and defenses based on the advanced technologies they'd discovered in the research station. "They must have been terrified," Zor-El whispered, trying to imagine the weight of responsibility on the fleet's crew. Novak nodded solemnly. They were, but their bravery and determination never wavered. They knew that the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and they were ready to face this unprecedented threat head-on. As Novak continued his account, Zor-El felt a chill run down his spine. When the fleet arrived at the coordinates where the Omega particle was believed to be emerging, they witnessed something that defied comprehension. The very fabric of space seemed to warp and distort around a central point, as if reality itself was being torn asunder. "By the stars," Zor-El breathed, trying to visualize the terrifying scene. What was happening? "The entity was beginning to manifest in our physical realm," Novak explained, his voice barely above a whisper. Captain Sullivan and his crew watched in horror as the distortion grew larger and more violent with each passing moment. They knew they had to act fast, or all would be lost. As Novak recounted the harrowing battle between the EDA fleet and the Omega particle, Zor-El listened with a mix of awe and dread. "Captain Sullivan and his crew threw everything they had at the entity," Novak said, his voice heavy with emotion. "Every weapon, every tactic, but nothing seemed to faze it. The Omega particle just kept growing, consuming everything in its path." Zor-El shook his head in disbelief. How could they hope to stop something like that? "They couldn't, not with conventional means," Novak replied. But Captain Sullivan, he refused to give up. He came up with a plan, a last-ditch effort to save the galaxy. "What did he do?" Zor-El asked, leaning forward in his seat. "He ordered the fleet to channel all of their energy reserves into a single, concentrated blast," Novak explained. "He hoped that by focusing all of their power on the Omega particle's core, they could destabilize it, make it collapse in on itself." Zor-El's eyes widened. That's brilliant, but also incredibly risky." Novak nodded solemnly. It was a gamble, but it was the only chance they had. Before they fired, Captain Sullivan addressed his crew. He told them how proud he was of their bravery, their sacrifice. He reminded them that they were fighting not just for themselves, but for every living being in the galaxy. "What happened when they fired?" Zor-El asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "For a moment it looked like it worked," Novak said, his gaze distant as if he were reliving the moment. The Omega particle's growth slowed, its form began to waver. But then he trailed off, his expression darkening. "Then what?" Zor-El prompted, his heart racing. "It surged back, stronger than ever," Novak said, his voice trembling. "It engulfed the fleet, the energy, everything. There was a blinding flash of light. And then nothing. The ships, the Omega particle, they all vanished. All that was left was an empty void in space." Zor-El sat back in his chair, stunned. "And Captain Sullivan, his crew?" Novak shook his head. "We never found any trace of them. They were just gone." "No," Novak said firmly. "The humans, they taught us so much. Their courage, their selflessness, it inspired us. We vowed to honor their memory, to carry on their legacy of protecting the galaxy." Zor-El nodded, a newfound respect for the human race blossoming in his heart. They were true heroes. "They were," Novak agreed, a sad smile on his face. "And their story, it's a testament to the incredible spirit of humanity, the lengths they were willing to go to safeguard the future, even at the cost of their own lives. It's something we should never forget." As Zor-El sat in contemplation, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and humility wash over him. The tale of the EDA fleet and their valiant stand against the Omega particle had shaken him to his core, forcing him to re-evaluate everything he thought he knew about the universe and the role of different species within it. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.